Now I'm joined by Councillor Dick Pascoe, who's the Shepway District Councillor for Park Ward and also KCC member, Kent County Council member for Folkestone North East. Now, in terms of your patch, Dick, where exactly is Park Ward and where is Folkestone North East?
Well, Park Ward is actually part of my Kent County Council division, which is Folkestone North East. Park Ward is north of the railway line, that's this side, east of Cherry Garden Avenue and west of Black Bull Road. We're actually sitting in Park Ward right at the moment.
Right here in the Folkestone Academy.
That's right, okay. Yes. The Folkestone North East actually goes from Cherry Garden Avenue right through to the borders of Capel, and again north of the railway line. And this includes the Folkestone Park Ward, where we are, as I mentioned, East Ward and also Ford Ward, all small parts of Folkestone.
Speaking about Folkestone, I was thinking the other day about different names of different areas and so on, and a lot of them you can kind of work out, and things like harbour and so on. But in terms of some of the names, the name Folkestone itself, do you know where that came from?
Well, I don't think anybody knows exactly where it came from, but if you take, for example, Park Ward, well, it came from the original big park, of course, Ford, because there was a ford down over the Pent Stream. But Folkestone, there's some suggestion it might have come from Folkestone, a person called Folker, and it's a rock that marked a meeting place of people, although who he was and where the stone was is a total mystery. But what is quite interesting, actually, if you look back, perhaps in a little bit closer from those times, the Domesday Survey of 1086 refers to Folkestone with 209 villagers and 83 smallholders.
That's not many
whatever
people.
That is. So it's a tiny, tiny place.
That's not many people at all. I mean, seeing as some of the villages in the Downs, places like Elam and so on, have got
exactly
1,000, something like that.
Yeah.
So 209 people. That's just a hamlet, really, isn't it?
Well, I think the majority of those would have been the fishermen fishing out of Folkestone. There was, of course, the monastery of St Ainsworth, which was up in the Bale area. But as you say, a very, very small number of people.
But it was a village back then. At some stage, it turned into a town. Yes,
it did. And what's quite interesting, actually, that King Edward II in 1313 granted Folkestone the town and a charter incorporate. Now, what that is, I'm not certain, but it actually made Folkestone a town and gave it its first council. It could elect a mayor, it had a bailiff, and 12 jurors. But it took another 200 years before councillors were actually voted in and a corporation started, and this continued right up until 1974, when everything changed.
So things changed in 1974. Exactly how?
Well, then the government of the day was working on making things a bit more financially secure, where the smaller councils were merged together. And at that time, the boroughs of Folkestone, Hythe, Lydd, New Romney, Romney Marsh Rural District and Elam Rural Council were all gathered together. They'd lost their own councils, in effect, and then became part of Shepway District Council. And at this time, although they lost their borough identity, most of them kept their parish identity, which was slightly different. So Shepway Council came into being in 1974, and it moved from the old town hall in Guildhall Street then until the new council offices where they are now.
We were talking about where the name Folkestone came from. Where does the name Shepway come from then?
Well, that's quite interesting. If you actually go into the council offices down in Castlewood Avenue, there's a map on the wall there which shows a piece of Romney Marsh, Saxon Romney Marsh, and it's named as the Lathe of Shipway. So I assume over the years that the word Shipway slightly corrupted into Shepway, and the right of the councillors to elect a mayor was passed to the councillors elected to the Shepway District Council. Those members who were elected for Folkestone itself, this group was called the Charter Trustees of Folkestone, and it was only those Charter Trustees that were allowed to elect the Mayor of Folkestone. The Mayor of Hythe, of New Romney and Lydd, etc., were elected by the parish councils at that time, and still do.
Just to clarify, back in history, the mayors of all these areas, such as Folkestone and New Romney and so on, they weren't directly elected by the people. They weren't directly, elected by the populace. They were elected by the council members.
Exactly. Very different to what happens in America, where the mayors are elected by the populace. Here, the mayor of Folkestone, for example, is elected by Folkestone Town Council. He will be an elected member of Folkestone Town Council, and they elect him, and the deputy mayor.
But this isn't the same in, say, in London, for instance. In the mayoral elections in London, the populace chooses who is going to be the mayor.
That's very different, isn't it?
Can you see any advantage to having one system over the other?
The advantage of having the populace elect a mayor is very distinct, because someone who is known for good works, very efficient, much like the American system, which I mentioned, he is much more likely to get elected rather than on a local parish council or someone, my best friend, I think he should be mayor. There is possibly that happening in various areas. I can't confirm or deny it. I don't know. But if it's elected by the populace, it's going to be someone who's going to be a hard worker and will do the best for the district.
Surely, isn't it better to have mayors everywhere that are elected by the populace rather than by other council members?
I think that's a distinct possibility, and I think it could very well be beneficial to the district. And I also think it's likely to happen.